Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm honored to be here and to moderate the panel entitled Where Technology Meets Business and Creating Value Beyond Borders with three very innovative leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries from different verticals, from different industries. So we hope to get different perspectives in going forward, and they advise as to what next steps we should undertake to stay competitive in the global marketplace. It is a special honor to welcome you in Sarajevo as a co-founder of ABSL Western Balkans. I am very pleased to see that all of you have recognized however innovative we are as countries, we are still too small to compete in the global marketplace. As a region, we can be stronger, we can share experiences, and I'm very happy to have already shared experiences in our networking yesterday in the conference yesterday. As global markets evolve and digital innovation accelerates, the Western Balkans countries are uniquely positioned to lead with agility, talent, and cross-border collaboration. But today's conversation is more than just about technology, because behind all technology lies what value do we provide as companies, what value do we provide as a business. So tinkering and innovation is great, but how does that reflect our businesses? How does that reflect, at the end of the day, our return on investment for our investors and for the business overall? My colleague later on, Irhad Babic, will reflect on AI, and everybody's talking about it, but is it a bubble to burst? Is it creating value at the moment, or is it something that we will, actually it will not go away, but when will it start actually creating value? So in this conversation today, we'll explore how emerging technologies from AI and automation to cloud and data are reshaping service delivery, enabling smarter operations, and opening new doors for growth. We'll hear from leaders who are doing just that. They're bridging innovation and business strategy to unlock new potential across borders. To bring the conversation to life, we're joined by three outstanding leaders who are shaping the future of business and technology in the Western Balkans and beyond. So today with me is Ognjen Pejovic from Bosch Serbia. Ognjen brings deep expertise from one of the world's most respected engineering and technology companies. At Bosch Serbia, he's at the forefront of integrating advanced manufacturing, digital transformation, and sustainable innovation. His insights into how global tech strategies adapt to regional strengths will be invaluable today. We are also here joined by our host of this panel, Telemach, its CEO, Admir Drinic, who leads basically one of the region's most dynamic telecommunications providers. At Telemach, he is driving connectivity, customer experience, and digital infrastructure across borders. Expect a sharp perspective on how telecoms are enabling new business models and empowering digital ecosystems in the Western Balkans. Also with us today is Hamdia Yusufagic. Hamdia is the visionary behind software companies Reinvent and System Verification, and most recently, startup Code Scene. With a focus on software development and digital solutions, he brings a startup mindset and a passion for unlocking value through agile transformation. Also, I'd like to mention that Hamdia is a recipient of numerous business awards in Sweden too. So I'll start with Hamdia.
Okay, great.
So tell me, what practical, I believe all of us learn most from the practical examples and case studies of what we've come through, and you've seen quite a lot in your career. So what practical steps have you found most effective in bridging the gap between technology and business within your companies or organizations and clients you work with?
Yeah, I mean, Reinvent that I have here in my background, that was founded based on that challenge, right? So we work with a lot of global clients, and Sweden is known for a lot of startups, and they measure the billionaires per capita, innovation per capita, and they're leading, right? So There is kind of an agile mindset there, but companies are challenged with this question because I think in the early days it was a supportive function as an IT was growing, right? And it's transformed to more a business perspective. I mean, what are we supporting when it comes to this challenge between business and technology? And I think that is a challenge that is more put up today when it comes to AI, right? So I think usually companies have tried to build those internal departments. And what we see go wrong there is that you kind of build that and you solve the problems by adding more people. In the end, when it changes really fast, it's really hard to change the kind of organization's mindset to new technology. I mean, if I would compare, like today you're supposed to be good at football, and tomorrow let's handball, and the next day it will be basketball. I mean, I would challenge any team best in football to change that sport so often, right? And I think the mindset and the practical things I've seen work really well, and I do that internally myself, is that you need to really understand what is my core here. I mean, is it to drive business or is it to build technology? And try to do both, is like juggle that kind of questions. I mean, it's really hard. So it's more about relying on finding good partners that can grow with you and challenge you as well. So in reInvent, for example, we have one example I can think of. There was a real estate company, and when the real estate companies buy a lot of houses or real estate, they sometimes get like warehouses that they don't want. They buy in big packages, right? And when they do that sometimes, what will we do next? Usually you sell that cheap. But if you look at it from a business perspective, how could we increase value there with digitalization? So what we did is to say to them, let's see if we can get out 10x more than you think on that real estate which you want to get rid of, right? The warehouses. And we thought about how do we, if we build a digital solution that could compete with ShoreGuard or something like that. And we did that, fully integrated. We call it Sesam, like Sesame Door Open. And when they did that, of course, they got a lot of offers from those bigger companies that has like self-storage as a core business, because they haven't been able to change. They have now warehouses now with a full digital solution implemented, right? So they can just buy that, implement that to a larger scale. So that ended up to get probably 40x more in value, right? So I would say the practical example would be, I mean, don't make the same mistake as many companies try to build it yourself, because we heard the discussions before here as well that a lot of companies we're trying to do this. It's like innovating the wheel again. And you can't do that as well as managing your core business. So that would be my practical, definitely. And there are a lot of great support. We took a look at this security company talking here today. Exactly. I mean, should you be good at that as well? Or there is a company really focusing on that, passionate about that. And that means that they have kind of wider range of people they can just put into place. And if they can't support that organization, they probably have somebody else that can jump in tomorrow and fix that, right? Instead of you trying to recruit those resources all the time.
Brilliant summary of that would be you focus on your strengths and let others who have strengths that help your business actually do their work. But also,
and they can also challenge you in that sense from a business perspective, like the examples I gave you with the real estate. I mean, if they come up with that idea, their IT department, I would challenge that as well.
I would say all of you, like when you look at your businesses, you're seeing more or less the same things. It's like, it's difficult to see outside the box when you're in the business. So businesses such as yours provide that different perspective for a solution, for something that you gave an example of the estate company didn't know what to do with the extra things, and then you actually created an extra revenue stream for them.
Absolutely.
So that's really insightful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ognjen, what made Serbia the right choice for Bosch when deciding where to open its GBS hub? How does Serbian GBS hub fit into Bosch's global digital business services strategy? So a little bit of history of how Bosch ended up in Belgrade.
Yeah, maybe what I always like to share when the colleagues from Bosch visiting Serbia about the future opportunities, when we sit with our general manager in 2002-3, when the sales officially opened the legal entity, there was 12 of them. Now there is a 5,000 of us.
Wow.
So we have a production plant of 3,000 people for the Viper systems. We have sales, services, and we have this GBS, how we call it in here, of 1,000 people. So, and basically how it started from the Now, the strategy perspective and what organization needs, it's shifting over the years, but in 2012, everything started, of course, due to the cost pressure, so in the different businesses. Bosch is a big conglomerate with a lot of different divisions, but they searched for the opportunities how they could actually optimize the cost structure in the Germany to finish more work and to give the budget. And back then, decision for the most, I would say in Serbia, of the GBS was, of course, the cost driven, because if you compare the cost of the German salary, and back then in the 2012 was that we were below 40-30% of the costs, right? And then we started building some kind of the master data services to clean up the data in SAP system. So this was just a starter, but this was actually an anchor of this 100 people, which actually led later to the ICT. So if I now go to 2015, this was for us the year when we started. So back then I was an intern in Germany. So I actually applied for the internship, went to Germany, and we had a huge challenge with small amount of the budget, right? So because digital transformation was not back then the buzzword, so business was investing in something else, and etc. How we could deliver more with the same, again, amount of money, and finally how we could, I need to say from the German culture perspective, shift from this process thinking, making everything perfect, and iterate it better. So, and then back then, one of my directors and myself visited Serbia, and actually we recognized, not because of me of course, but they recognized that there is a huge potential. And now to bring also some data and facts from 2015 till now, so we also saw by the manpower, so the market itself grew dramatically. So the strategic decision, who is present there, not only from the Bosch Group itself, but there was a Microsoft, there was Fidelity Services, there was Continental, there was a big players, ZF, which were investing and also getting up to this talent. The second one, how this fits, we discuss a lot about university, right, setups. So, and what we are observing over I will just take the data out of 2021 to 2025, that we were actually putting up to 15,000 people newly on the market every year. So which actually comes not only from the education system, but actually comes from the secondary also education system, like everybody heard about IT academies and so on. And then this was actually driving, and the good, I will say, the background. So, I always tell the joke, so even if you go to some university or in the high school, so you learn a lot of maths and physics, right? So this is not the case, I will say, in the most of the world, at least when I'm sharing with one of my best friends in the US. So there is a strong this educational background, languages and so on. And back then, of course, willing of the people being an underdogs to prove it and to make it right. So looking also from the data perspective, what was quite interesting back then for the Bosch to take this decision, of course, is what is the availability of we are now discussing about engineers, so not to the business, so what is available pool of the talents. And again, quite interesting if you compare last 5 years, that again, out of this 15,000 people coming to the market, 7,000 to 8,000 people were actually the coders. So, and this was something which was proving it right. So for the Bosch Group to fit it in the terms of the engineering, solving the problem. What else actually brought us here to this moment is that we were not only bringing, let's say, in classical word development, but we were also bringing the operations together. So for one of our biggest, let's say, one of our divisions, which deals with the power tools, production, sales, services. So actually we are now collocating around 350, 400 people supporting their business. So we are at the same side, not only, like engineering the different solution for the online sales, for AI, for the annual subscription services, and etc., and the logistics. We also have colleagues which understands the business and also which operates, and we have a quite tight collaboration. So this strategically, till very moment, I will say also last year, now we've also discussed that a little bit, everything is shifting worldwide, so this leads us to the very moment that we have this strategic position. So bringing not only engineering development, but also operations together on the Bosch Group under the one, let's say, also office and building where people could collaborate and deliver. So that will be in the nutshell.
Thank you, Ognjen. You give an excellent example of German company thinking of expanding initially for the cost related reasons, and really now most recently actually giving the decision-making power to its leg in Serbia. And that's also thanks to people like yourselves and engineers and business people working within Bosch Serbia to actually have gained that trust in the decision-making. And I think in our preparation we spoke about the fact that we need to dilute the decision-making power to the different centers, because time is of essence, and if you just waited as a big bureaucratic organization to reach and make some decisions, then you're already too late in the business race. So thank you for your perspective on that. Now a perspective of telecoms. Admir, I am sure you're somebody who follows closely the developments in the world, but also obviously more closely in the region, the trends in the telco industry. So can you just tell us what key trends do you see shaping the future of telecom in the region?
Well, if you ask me this question, let's say 40 years ago, somebody in my position 40 years ago, he would definitely telling you about his opinion. But right now, in the digitalized era and with the internet and everything, during your morning coffee, you can see where this world is going each and every morning. So right now, there's when we are looking at the United States market and the telcos down there, we can see clearly that they are shifting. They are shifting from the traditional telcos with the services of talking and let's say watching TV and surfing, browsing internet. They are shifting into the real B2B or B2C partners. They just want, they don't want just to sell services like watching TV, as I said. They want to be an infrastructure for everybody. They want to be an infrastructure for let's say, for the B2B community, for every business owner. They want to be, how to say, they want to free them from that capex investment, and of course allowing them to invest in operating expenditures, so in OPEX. So to translate for everybody, they want to, let's say, free those B2B small businesses or small and medium businesses from investing in the equipment for cybersecurity, for connection, for whatever, you name it, and bring those services into telco. So they can offer it in a cloud, they can offer it on every other way, so they will become one serious partner of every B2B or B2C customers in the world. That's the long story short. Yeah.
Thank you very much for summarizing it nicely for us. I'll get back to Hamdia on the question on how should executives or boards rethink their strategy to ensure technology investments generate business value instead of costs?
I mean, what we see is a trend. I mean, we work with a lot of global clients around the world, mostly US now, and I see the common thing, right? What people are trying to do is find the return of investment. So to make sense of the investment you're making in this area, especially now with AI. And of course, you need to focus on that. I mean, we had this discussion previously. I mean, is it bringing value? Yeah, it is bringing value. We have done projects where you eliminate boring tasks and so on, and that generates an extra income for the company in that sense. And that's usually work people don't want to do, and you have to think about how they should focus. So I think it's about, I mean, this is a really interesting question, because I think the boards need to change, to be honest, because they need to understand core technology. And usually when you put it in the board, it was more business driven, looking at the numbers, right? And they need to change their mindset. And that means that the CEO needs to have some sense of what this means if you're running a company today, and challenge that. Because we're seeing the same mistakes made again with a lot of companies. You're looking, when we talked about services here today, for example, I mean, you talked about, people look at hourly rates. I mean, is that the proper way to look at the cost? I usually challenge boards with saying, is it cheap to buy like $10 an hour? Is that cheaper than $100 an hour? And say, yes, of course it is, but you don't know the total cost. What are you implementing for those $10 an hour? And I've seen so many companies made mistakes with just offshoring to India, looking at our rate, they didn't look at the total cost, then realized that this is more costly than we had it in our home country, let's bring it back again. So they're making those same mistakes again. I mean, CodeSync, for example, is focusing on technical debt. That's poorly written code, and that is a very high number in the world right now. It's $5 trillion. That's the cost of poor quality in code. And it's growing rapidly now, especially with AI-generated code. And they still look at those same old numbers when there are measurements to fix this. And if you don't fix it, what will happen in the other end, right? It will destroy the system. So I think challenging, and you have to ask yourself the question, why do we have digitalization at all in our company? Why do we have this kind of services support from digital solution? What is the purpose, right? And trying to build that kind of relationship. And we had a great example of a large old Swedish company called Alfa Laval, and probably if you're in this building, there are a lot of components here. They're known for their heat exchangers, right? But a very modern company in that thinking, and that's a great example of a company that modernized in the way. So they were thinking of, what is the challenge? I mean, we have 25,000 employees spread out all over the world. How do we get innovation, for example, faster out to market and measure impact? What are the challenges? In this task, we helped them to build an agentic platform. And what that means is to create some kind of platform where they can control the data, because that is the challenge. And I think the previous person talking about security, same thing there, right? You can't just go heads into new technology without understanding what the challenges are as well, right? So that means in 30 or 90 days, we build a full system for them with agentic platforms to reach out to the 25,000 employees. With that said, they can now, for example, if there is a challenge with business, they can create a special, customized for that industry presentation to get that business deal faster. They can also then look at all the businesses that are available, look at what they have, what kind of resources they need to deliver that business faster as well. That means that they don't need to spend 3 weeks to find out, hey, I mean, we wasted 3 weeks of time. We can't solve this problem, right? We should have that answer faster. So that is I would say a great way to start to build this platform, a secure playground for your company, independent of size, but you can control and secure the data. So I think, it is a challenging thing, and I mean, you need to think about the organization as well. How is that set up? So a very great question. I think I see it a lot in the huge companies.
Throughout our panels, I think we can conclude data is the king, and how
100%.
where you get the data and how you use that data is actually...
Yeah, but sometimes, I mean, what you end up in, sadly enough, is you talk a lot about strategies. Instead of like 5% strategies, like 5% delivery, and also measuring that impact, because with modern technology today, transparency is the key, right? You can measure things really fast and see the impact of it. So try fast, fail fast. I mean, but you don't need to try with huge risk. It doesn't cost anything today. Yeah. And that is, how do we do that? Instead of us as a top management figuring out what is the key things to solve this problem. You have a great employees out there, probably challenge, but also, but give them the tools, right? But secure tools to work with.
Thank you. You mentioned the Asian markets, and I want to actually put the question across to Ognjen about, well, the claim that the Western Balkans is a hub for tech talent and service delivery is a bit outdated, I think. Yeah. So would you agree with that, and why?
So maybe I will connect also what Hamdi was saying. It's we are in the cost game. Unfortunately, we are still not in the productivity game, so cost over the value. So what we are observing just from the data perspective, again from the Serbia, so if you compare the number of the job ads, so there was a significant drop in 2024, like 68%, followed in the 2025, sorry, that was 2023, and followed by the 2024 by the additional 24%. So we see less and less demand coming newly on the market. Also, to back up this data, I mentioned there was a 15,000 people entering the market till 2025. This was a 12% year-by-year growth. Now only 5,000 people are entering the market, so juniors. And imagining now, we also said like there is a 7,000 people every year which search for the job opportunity. This means that roughly we are having like 20,000 people waiting for their first job opportunity from the university interns. And I could also back up with this data, you know, like in the past when during the corona there was this peak digitalization, there was a lot of cheap money. When I say cheap money, you know, like before all of this geopolitical topic started. So we were actually struggling to find an interns, you know, like to find a quality intern because there was a huge fight over the talents. Now, easily you get 500, 600 applicants. And you could really pick, really, if you want 100 really excellent one. The second, what also we are observing that this is again, I would say it's changing. You know, we are still not, personally, we will discuss, we will not over the risk. So currently from this seniority pyramid, which was mostly junior based, we are seeing by the data that, by the job ads that we are switching more to the diamond. So 60% of juniors, or 20% of juniors, 60% professional, 20% seniors. And this is something that we are also observing now after a couple of exchange with Gartner, one of the leading research industries in Bosch, that also this is how the organization are shaping when it comes to the adoption of the AI technologies. So this is, I will say, all fine, but what worries me in this cost game, because it's a cost game, for the first time, beginning of this year, in Serbia, the big research development center out of 7 Bridges, which was bought by the Veslera company. They were the most prominent, let's say, Serbian startup which raised all of the series of the funding, was completely shut down and everything was offshore to India. Why decision, I don't know. Is it maybe competition versus, but we see that the big players, and I think also it was mentioned yesterday, 250, you know, like this engineering centers bigger than the 200 people, we see that someone will take something and move it just from the cost base. This again reflected just from the data perspective that we also observed. Microsoft was also having layoffs. All of the stock-based companies were pushed to reduce the number of the fixed personnel. So what I'm trying to say, I don't think it's outdated, but we need to understand also in the region that we are also now part of the global game. So there is not going to be any more coming and saying, here you go, you are good, you are underdogs, you want to work. So there is now completely different of the mindset because we really see that there is not any more cheap money on the market and the economy, especially in the Europe, is slowing down. We are quite tied to the Europe and so on. And where we need also to have a look quite carefully, also there is Asia Pacific and Latin America coming. So we are really speaking as a Brazil, as our competition market, 200 million people. When we are speaking about APAC itself, it's more than billion people, 3.5 billion people. So this means there is this talents coming up as we were coming, so in much more depth of the market, right, which will raise to the middle class. And finally, you know, observing if the Europe is stagnating, so okay, there is this issue with America, we will not comment it here, but the business will shift there. And the question, will the business shift there also there, you know, like the knowledge, engineering and everything together? I have a doubt. If we start discussing about productivity, which is costs over the value, because I still believe that this region, because of the culture, close connections here to the headquarters, that everything is with the plane or with the car really close by, and with the knowledge that we gather, that we could actually deliver. So we also, Hamdia mentioned we should stop reinventing the wheels for some topics, right? I think this region, what we need to have a look is not try to reinvent something on our own. We really also, in this ABSL organization, we really need to look what Poland did. So again, just maybe to complete here, if you look the Serbian market, 93% is outsourcing out of this 4.5 billion. That's a huge risk, which could be more. So 7% is product and technological partners, showing by the data of the Chamber of Commerce. So what we need to do to stay on the top of this game is actually to start thinking of one step in the value chain. So this is, if you really say you are a classical outsourcing industry, you are a technological partner, or you're a product driven when you are generating finally the venue for your government, we now need to start by playing the game and raising ourselves to technological partner, because also we have a good examples how Poland did this. Because in all of the discussion, I never heard, you know, like someone is challenging Poland, because there is a productivity behind, there is a value which is given by the cost. Closeness to the customer, understanding the business, understanding technology, which it's not only software, it's the processes, people, and everything behind decision making in the companies. So this is what we need to go ahead if we don't want to be this hourly rate game, which is quite ugly game now, given the less money on the market and the pressure which is imposed by the economics.
Thank you. Definitely Poland serves as a good example, actually. Okay, thank you very much. Admir, how has Telemach's 390 million euros investment in digital infrastructure directly influenced your business strategy and customer experience at the end of the day?
Complex question.
Is the figure right?
Yeah. You know, today, in the month of October, is exactly 15 years as Competition Council in Bosnia and Herzegovina allow British investment fund called Middle Europa to purchase and bring together 3 cable operators in Sarajevo. And that is exactly how it started. And in this month also, this year, Competition Council already said that BH Telecom can purchase Telemach. And that's the reality that we are living in. But despite all that, Telemach is shaped and growth from acquiring 17 different cable TV companies in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And when you're purchasing those companies from the private investors, from the real people who are actually Bosnian and Herzegovinians, you need to invest a lot to bring those companies to state-of-the-art technology and to be able to offer the services as customers in Bosnia and Herzegovina or everywhere in the world will accept or expect. So yes, we spent a lot of money during these 15 years, and we definitely reshape our mindset as well to be, what I said in the first question, to be more customer-oriented. We invent a lot of new things and bring a lot of new things in Bosnia and Herzegovina. For example, first things, the first appearance of the, for example, video club on watching TVs here. First internet without measuring how did you spend, or flat internet was bring with the Telemach. Also, first fixed telephony for non-government companies is from Telemach, and there's a lot of things that we brought to the Bosnia and Herzegovina market, and all of this is directly connected with customer satisfaction. For example, we start to measure it in, I believe, 2019. It's called MPS, and the first result that we measure was, minus 17 out of 100. And but for anybody in the audience who don't know, the average result on telcos in Europe is around 29, 28, something like that. Google is in 50, let's say, or something like that. We set the goal to be in the next couple of years on 50. From 2022, we are stably at 50, even as we speak now, 52, 54. And we decided, and nobody tell us you need to do this, because we know that we cannot compete with the public telcos because we don't have mobile technology. We only can compete with them with better services, better response, better quality, and we start heavily to invest in the network quality. So we are fixing all the gaps, we are fixing all the errors, and so today we are still here.
Yes. How often do you measure your NPS score with customers?
Every month or daily. there are a lot of how to say, key performance indicators, and we are measuring it on every contact with the customer. For example, if they call, the question appears anonymously. If they have a trouble ticket, the question appears how satisfied they are. So we are doing it daily, and we are publishing it, monthly, and we are telling to all the employees how good we are or how bad we are, who are the best performers according to our customers, not according to me. So.
I think that's a wonderful way to actually keep contact and keep an eye out for what your customers need. How many of you do NPS scoring in your companies, internally or externally towards your clients? Hands up. Okay, some 20%, unless you're all from the same company. Okay, thank you, Admir, for that question, for your answer. Okay. Hamdia, which business models do you believe are most vulnerable to technological disruption in the next 5 years? And how should companies prepare? I'm aware you've started off a startup, so I suppose that's probably going to be in the lines of that. But which industries are more at risk?
I mean, we work with global. I mean, we have 3 companies, right?
Yes.
So I have a contact with every company
Exactly.
in that sense. So we have.
So which industries are more at risk of disruption from the new tech-driven models?
No, I would say to everyone. I mean, we heard an example before. We heard an example before about suing stitching companies and so on, and compared. That is still yet, but you needed to compare the step before, right? If it's done manual and you have a machine, that is how it's still driven today, right? So it's about those shifts that we're talking about, and I mean, yes, you always get to this question about change and so on. So that is of course always something that people like to talk about, but have a hard time to implement in the company, and that just means that you need to. Reskill and so on, and do different things, change business models. But look at Spotify, what they did with the music industry, and that was like 20 years ago almost now.
Are they making profit now?
Yeah, absolutely they are, and that's again the different thing, and you're into talking about a little bit the challenge in Europe compared to the US. Because they see a market and bet on it, right? And that's the challenge we have in Sweden with the entrepreneurial companies and so on, that bring this new technology in, right? Because in Europe we say we have risk capital, but we just put in like 1/10 of what the American are prepared to put in. And as an entrepreneur, I would love to have the company still in Europe, but you don't have a chance. If they get 10x more money, my competitors, I will be drowned down. Even if I have the best solution, they will just wipe me out of the market. So
you wouldn't highlight any industry in particular?
No, I mean everything is up for grabs. I mean, again, I talked about Alpha Valley. It's 150 years. They need to change. It's about the mindset. Mm-hmm. And yes, to the previous talker as well. I mean, a lot of companies overcome this, but if you don't change, you can't overcome it. I mean, just in my first company I started, that's a company I started in 2002, certification, quality assurance, right? A lot of people did manual testing in the early days. And we saw that as something we need to change. And in 2010, we took a direction and say, we need to go full optimization. And that's what AI is about today as well. And I thought that would be an easy way to implement that as a company. We dropped 35%, and we lost 35% of our employees. And my board was looking at me and saying, no, but I still believe in this. I don't care what it costs, because disruption is coming. I'm more afraid of being overrun by it. And what happened? 3 years down the road, my competitor was really glad 3 years early on because they can recruit. They went into bankruptcy, and we took over the entire market in the Nordics. So I mean, disruption is happening everywhere, but you need to find out, again, to the first question you asked about a little bit, how do we create this kind of sync between the business and our solutions, digital solutions that we need to provide. And we have why I say agentic AI platforms, that kind of business driven. I mean, we have subscriptions models and so on that will continue to somewhat, everything will be challenged there as well. But why I say that is that now, even if you are in the shipping industry, I can take example, one of the largest shipping industry in the world without mentioning names, their challenge now is that their customer is demanding data. Because if they don't provide data to the customers, in the end, they can't automate on their side. So it's not about, yes, you have delivered services for us for 50 years, but we don't care about the cost anymore. It's about getting that data so we can continue our optimization on our side. I mean, and this shipping industry just 20 years ago did a research about what do the customers want. And in the end, they wanted to know, when do I have my shipment in my harbor? Just that simple thing, right? And they, wow, we were developing different things. Is that the thing you want to know? Yeah. And we're prepared to take 10% extra for that, because like H&M, for example, if they're launching a new, they start a collaboration with Karl Lagerfeld and everything else, and there was a big hype of people coming up to the store, even sleeping outside the store, right? And they didn't know if that shipment didn't come that day, and we've launched a big campaign, that can suffer, that's a disaster, right? And people will then lose trust in the brand. So that's what I mean. It goes into every part of your supply chain in the end, right? You need to figure out where the low-hanging fruits are to start there. And I think starting with this kind of agentic AI platform is about mining data as well, to understand what kind of data do we have. Because it's not easy to go into the simple solution of saying, and that's the, to your second question, that's a typical mistake a lot of companies do when they talk about what do we change. Let's take the safe answer. Let's go to IBM, let's go to Microsoft, let's go to Accenture, whatever, Capgemini and so on. That is not the answer anymore. You need to figure out, what kind of data do you have, because that is the advantage you're going to build upon, and how can I accelerate that? If I take Copilot, I mean, I'm sharing the same thing as everybody else is doing, so how can I compete on that market?
Absolutely.
So it's about changing that kind of mindset, and that's why I'm saying, I mean, of course, if you're a dentist and so on, I mean, to invest in a robot that does that job, it doesn't make sense, right? Yeah. And cutting hair, yeah, maybe cut robots in that, and we see that happening as well in the industry. Will that make sense in the next coming year? No, it's too expensive to invest in that to get some kind of benefit out of it. But it is, again, it's not ROI, as I said, return of investment, what do I invest to get back? But it's also, how do I stop losing customers if they're demanding something, I haven't prepared for? And this shipping industry is a traditional industry that I can give it as an example, but I see it everywhere. I mean, we started with Ericsson, our first client, and that's also in the telecom industry, right? So what we did in our mindset was being mobile from day one. And that means the whole world is gone mobile, right? So and everything getting more personalized as well. You have now AI. I mean, looking at the previous trend, if you look at marketing, we did marketing optimization. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have billboards everywhere. Mm. How do I know that I hit the right cost? It's very expensive, right? And then internet, of course, we can look at who is searching for what, and then we can personalize a little bit that. That's why I get the right person to sell my product towards. And then the next step now, it's even more personalized to understand behaviors and everything else. I mean, if you don't have that, how will you compete?
Yeah.
Thank
you. I mean, again, we are competing on a global market, but
100%.
Since we're Western Balkans here, and I'm bringing it back to for a question to Ognjen, actually. And you mentioned about, I mean, basically demand and supply of young talented workforce now 10 years ago.
I can add into that as well later on if I have the chance.
So now we have a bit of a shift where we have more people out there available than we have possibly jobs coming in. But my question to you was, although we are competing globally, we are somehow hindered by the policies and regulations in our own countries. What partnerships or policy changes would you most accelerate in the Western Balkans' emergence as a global business services hub and as a business service providers globally?
So if we are looking the short term, so really now the short term, because there is a different game. So I will start by sharing one anecdote. So 2 or 3 years, I was at one meetup with leading IT companies. So when I took my role at Bosch Digital, and everybody back then was complaining how people were expensive. For me, I was a little bit laughing because all of these industry leaders actually created this because they were actually catching the margin, they wanted to have the best engineers to get the clients, and they were giving all, and they were suddenly complaining about this. Back then I was quiet, so because I didn't know them, but if I could wish something out of Western Balkans, via ABSL and so on, we need from the cost perspective to see how we are teaming up to understand where is our bottom, but also the top where we are going to compete also with the costs when we combine all together, not only the salaries and so on. And what I love, for example, in Germany, even though maybe could be hindering innovation and so on, at least there is no this unloyal competition between the companies because they are well aligned how much people are paying for which role. Could be maybe plus minus 10%, not like here we have one company is paying A and another company is paying for the engineering B. Okay, we are in the competition market. But what I'm really saying, this partnership, it's a long term should lead us that we understand how structurally we develop our costs, not only from the company perspective, but also from the government perspective. Why? Because now when we are from the emerging markets going more to the industrialized market, and the minimum labor law, it's also raising this increase our cost part. And I think from the policy and the government also, I have a lot of data about Serbia, how much we are funding 5 million people, this complete industry that we are having. We also need to think how we develop this. So, because otherwise we are going to be in this ugly game where the big players are looking and shifting something less. So this will be the first partnership, and second one is how we develop strong and quality management teams to drive this inside of companies. Yeah.
Thank you. Lastly, a question for Admir to give us. Which emerging technologies do you see as most transformative for telecom in the Western Balkans?
Well, that's actually a follow-up on the first question. And the first thing, in my opinion, is that everybody needs to fix the networks. And they make them more robust, more resilient, especially for cyber attacks. And after that, 5G definitely,
Yeah.
because I hear people from the telcos, local telcos, that they say that it's not possible to monetize investment in the 5G, but it's not good. We need every country needs to invest heavily in the 5G because those digital highways, those connections are crucial for development, just like the real interstate highways and autobahns, as the Germans would say. Second thing, definitely in the rural area where it's almost impossible to bring cable, they need to develop a fixed network.
So collaboration with Elon Musk, perhaps?
Definitely, because even there's no people to maintain those connections with Starlink and everything. It's definitely one way that will, let's say, bring richness to those communities who are, especially in the Balkan area, they are, as we say, far from heart and far from eyes and far from the heart. So after network and the 5G, definitely artificial intelligence. That's the one thing that it's actually right now deeply inside every telco as we speak now. For example, in our services, when you're watching on EON different TVs, content and everything, each day something different is preparing for you. We're not doing it, AI is doing it. So, and there's numerous cases in every company, as the colleagues before me already mentioned. So after that, there are different collaborations regarding collecting data and doing stuff with that data, or enriching on one hand enriching people's life, but on the other hand bringing more revenue to the telcos. But those data, when you're handling big amounts of that, is huge potential of cyber attacks and for fraud. So combining artificial intelligence with cyber security to make this more trust, as the previous keynote speaker says.
That ties in nicely with what Adis was saying just before. So
Yeah.
thank you very much to all my panelists. I'll leave it to Adi to ask the audience for any questions.
Yes, we have time for 2 audience questions. Thank you once again to our panelists. Today's panel discussion was brought to us by Telemach. And if you're interested to explore more what Telemach was or is doing in the country and region regarding digital infrastructure, you can read the stories about gigacities in our ABSL country reports. So, questions from the audience?
Do you want lunch?
Okay, if we don't have any questions from the audience, it's time for a well-deserved break. Please join us for networking coffee in our networking area. Visit the booths of Concentrix, Telemach, and NetSolution, and we will see each other back here at 12:15 sharp.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.